So I'm on the Grand Canal tonight to tell you about Giustiniana Wynne. She lived in a few places in Venice, but I picked this one because it's just really nice to be on the Grand Canal. And the place behind me, this white palazzo, is Palazzo Balbi, a place that Giustiniana frequented when she was younger. Now, she was born to an English father, Richard Wynne, and a Venetian mother. But she lived most of her childhood here in Venice, lived in England for a time, and then came back to Venice. So most of her life was here in Venice. And she was quite a desirable young woman. She had many marriage proposals, some right here in this palazzo. It was a place where many people gathered. And she was much sought after. But when she was a teenager, she actually had quite a torrid affair with Andrea Memmo. And the Memmo family is one of the most noble families in Venice. So even though Giustiniana Wynne was of kind of a higher status herself, it was not the very highest status as the Memmo family. So in fact, Andrea Memmo later became the procurator of San Marco, which is the next highest position under the Doge. Anyways, they commenced to have quite an affair. There are many letters about their love affair. You may have heard of the book A Venetian Affair by Andrea di Robalant, and he collects the letters and tells their story. They would meet in a palazzo just further down the Grand Canal and find other secret meeting places, so they did actually get together, plus all of the letters they wrote. I also wrote about her in my book on Casanova because he met her when they were in Paris, and they actually had a very brief affair there. It's kind of a hilarious story. I tell it in much more detail elsewhere, so I won't repeat that story here. In fact, I wrote about her and Casanova first, and then later when I learned more about her life, I felt like I did sort of a disservice to her. So I'll put that straight now. Later in her life, she ended up marrying Count Orsini Rosenberg, and they lived in a palazzo much further down the Grand Canal. And she became a writer. In fact, when she was younger, she said of herself, Giustiniana was made to do something, which she did. She wrote a number of essays and articles. She had a collection of essays that was called Moral and Sentimental Essays. She wrote one about Altequiero, which was a villa on the mainland. But the main thing she's known for is a novel called Les Morlacs. She wrote it in French, and it's an anthropological novel about the Dalmatian people. Now that doesn't sound particularly interesting, maybe, unless you're Dalmatian. But she wrote that, and it's considered really the first, possibly the first novel. Some scholars debate this. Others say I Promessi Sposi was the first Italian novel. But others say maybe she was the person who wrote that a good 40 years before I Promessi Sposi came out. So she was really an important writer, and this, I think, overshadows the earlier affairs in her life. But the location here is about those earlier, lighter days when she was kind of the belle of the party and much sought after. So I'd like to honor Giustiniana Wynne, thinking about her here on the Grand Canal today.